everyone, welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters. With your questers, Josh and Dan, I am Dan.
I am Josh.
And on today's podcast, we will be discussing all things meteorological, because we're going to talk about the orc tribe of the Thunderers. So if you have any questions for us, please drop us a line at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Last episode, we had an all email palooza, so by all means, get your questions into Josh. We'll pick his sewer trap type brain and get you another one of those episodes here in the near future. So until then, we're going to talk about the Thunderers, and this is going to be a slightly longer episode than the last orc tribe we talked about, because I think the arm breakers was not all that involved.
Yeah, the arm breakers was 2 pages. The Thunderers is 4. It's not quite as in-depth as the metal fist or the broken fang. I almost called them the metal fang and the broken fist.
Those are the splinter groups out of each one of those. Yeah. That's where they crossbreed. Just kidding. So this one actually started with this is more of an astronomical or astrological, take your pick, orc tribe, because they do kind of run their whole tribe based upon the stars and signs from astronomy or astrology, take your pick, whichever one you want to use. Sometimes they use both. So the Thunderers emerged from their caer, Lechven, in northwestern Thrall during a thunderstorm. They had 500 survivors of their caer. They spent 60 years after the emergence, raiding and following herd migrations and doing the things that they remembered how to do from 400 years in the caer. So they were still living like their ancestors had. But then the time of the learning came. And that's basically the time that they learned to become adepts and splinter off into their actual disciplines that they decided to follow. Things like being troubadours, beastmasters, cavalrymen, warriors, archers, nethermancers, and wizards. So they pretty much centered on those 7, really. And this is also kind of the solidification of their tribe overall. And their leader, Zrak Lone Roar, saw the constellation of Corolus lying with Locost at the same time. And this told him, because he was able to read the stars, like people read tea leaves and things, the meaning that the tribe could now accept trade and not lose their freedom, so they didn't have to continue to be raiders from here on out, because they were always disrespected and looked down upon, since they were just an orc tribe that raided everybody. So roughly 30 years ago, the Thunderers changed to a more cavalry for hire than raiding lifestyle. And this meant that they could sign contracts for protection of other things, and they were therefore paid coin and earned respect. And to go along with this, to earn some more respect, Zrak Lone Roar actually created uniforms of midnight blue to match the nighttime sky and the stars, with some gold trim to remind everybody of their lightning foundation. So his son is the current head of the Thunderers, Titanstroke Greybeard. And that's an orc name if there was ever an orc name, I'm just going to say. And he still can. So what Zrak Lone Roar did was mostly sign contracts with Thrall, because Dwarven coin came quickly and very reliably. And that also helped to solidify their nice reputation as, and earn the respect that they were looking for, that they're no longer raiders. They are protectors for hire, essentially. Initial thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I like the aspect of them that gives a more spiritual bent, for lack of a better term, where they give attention to astrology, to the signs in the sky, and a big part of that has to do with their emergence. It's a nice little image that's given where after the elemental clock had been frozen for half a generation, as they say, they decided it's time to go out. They prepare the ritual. They open the caer out into the midst of a massive thunderstorm and are initially terrified because they didn't see the sun what they were expecting to see was not what they encountered, and they feared that perhaps the horrors had actually won. And it was cold and wet and dark and loud, and just the raw fury, the raw power of nature was a very strong impression on this first generation leaving the caer.
Because they hadn't seen weather like this.
Because they had never encountered anything like that before.
In, 30 generations? So, yeah.
Then the storm ended, the clouds parted, and they saw the night sky with all of the stars scattered across it, and they realized this is what rain is. This is what a storm is. The book talked about this. This is what these things are. And we understand that the stars did not actually make the clouds part, but that is a very strong cultural shared experience, especially for a group that was down to so few people. And so it was something that that left a very deep impression on this community, on this culture. And so it was something that became a part of their cultural practice and something that was important to them. And so the shooting star being at the birth of the chief's son. Yes. This is the one who is going to herald great change for us. I'm a little weird on how a constellation is able to change position, but again, I suspect that Zrak had this thought of doing this and kind of maybe manufactured in some way the signs to allow the tribe permission to change their ways somewhat.
Yeah.
I really liked that. And how there's a sense of, yes, we emerged, we barely survived the scourge, but we did, and we took up our old ways, or at least as they remember them. And then rather than just being simple bandits, essentially, bandits and raiders and whatnot, they started working with other groups, working for other groups to continue. And we haven't really mentioned it yet, but the next thing that I like, which I guess may be a little bit of a segue, is the fact that the Thunderers, unlike the Metal Fist and the Broken Fang, which are both very large, extended family groups, multiple clans that all make up a single tribe.
Yeah.
So you've got extended families. There's a lot of blood ties in these communities, extended families, cousins, uncles, aunts, that sort of thing. The Thunderers, who took their name because of the thunder that they encountered when they left, accept orcs coming in from elsewhere. You want to come and ride with us? You can ride with us. And that is how they have grown their numbers, accepting anyone who wants to, maybe not anyone, but basically being open to other orcs coming to ride with them to kind of take up the old ways in a sense. And it does mention that Herok's Lancers, who we talked about with the Armbreakers previously, also did a similar thing, where they would accept people looking to come and ride with them if they were able to do so.
Yeah, as long as you respect their ways and learn their ways, then they'll take you in. It's one of those, okay, this is how we do things. You do things the same way, you are welcome here. If not, then go find somewhere else to ride. Which is...
Yeah, and actually, it says approximately a quarter of their total numbers are fighters, are warriors. That's actually a rather significant percentage compared to the other folks that we've talked about thus far. The Armbreakers, it's called out like, they actually have a significant number, but their actual warriors, their mounted cavalry are relatively small, comparatively speaking.
Yes.
And similar with the others is that, yes, they have sizable cavalries, but part of that is because they are a sizable clan, sizable tribe in the first place.
Yeah. You got 8,000 and 1,000 of cavalry. Great. That's still only 1 in 8, though. This is 1 in 4, essentially, from their start. And this is how they make their living. So they've abandoned the old ways of raiding, and they're trying to legitimize themselves as not only a business, but a lifestyle to do nothing but protection for hire. And like I said, Zrak originally contracted with the Kingdom of Thrall, which gave them a legitimacy right off the bat and paid them handsomely and on time, which they definitely appreciated. So they earned their respect right there for being protectors of caravans for the Kingdom of Thrall to and fro wherever they were going. So because Josh said that they allow people to come in and train with them. Here's how the training actually works for the Thunderers. This is also good for any legend you want to put or any character backstory you want to have. If you want to have them be part of the Thunderers, not a bad idea. The children get their free choice on their destiny in the Thunderers. They can involve becoming adepts, farmers, whatever not. They're open to it, as are most of the orc clans. I love the fact that all the orc clans are similar in the same way that they're so about freedom that they don't shoehorn anybody in to say, you have to follow this because your parents did, or it's in this line. It's no, we really appreciate freedom as orcs. You get your choice of where you want to go and what you want to be throughout the entire orc race, air quotes.
Yeah.
So
again, on top of that, there is a very significant cultural aspect of it that means that the ones who break out of that mold are actually going to be somewhat exceptional. The idea being, I suspect that while not every child born in the Thunderers and growing up in that tribe is necessarily going to become a mounted cavalryman, the idea probably culturally is still going to be that in some capacity they are going to support the tribe in whatever fashion that they feel that they should or that they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly imagine that, at least with the Thunderers, to compare them to Heroc's Lancers, the Thunderers probably wouldn't have a problem with somebody who decided to leave the tribe to go do something else. I get the sense that the Lancers were a little bit less open to that as an idea, certainly because by leaving them, then they might go to Cara Fahd, and that was supposed to be a no-no amongst that group.
Fair enough. So when anybody decides when they achieve first circle, then they can begin training with the cavalry. Worded a little weird, but that's how it works. So any cadet spends a week. So all the cadets spend a week together just as a bonding exercise. They don't actually get on the horses yet or the Thunder Beast yet. They just all hang out and bond as a unit so they can all become friends. They naturally kind of then splinter off by the direction of their mentors into groups of 4, 6, 9, whatever. And those are called, is it cerri? Cerri. Sorry, my handwriting sucked at this point. My own notes they betrayed me. So they're called cerri, Cerri. And the cerri get private instructors, and they only train together. So that tight-knit group of people who kind of have a like mind or like attitude or like disposition are the cerri, and they train under one mentor. And those cerri are now the base units, once they're fully trained and advanced in circles and so forth, of the Thunderers' cavalry. Since the bonds therefore lead to great teamwork and fantastic team chemistry, so you have little tiny individual groups among your cavalry. So little platoons here and there that work well.
It gives me the impression that the Thunderers as a military force, as an actual cavalry, are probably, relatively speaking, a little bit more elite, perhaps. They're a smaller tribe. More of them are warriors, but the way that their training and military culture works, they are probably really good at skirmishing and small group tactics.
Yeah.
And it does call out that those cerri that are adepts frequently end up, it doesn't say it specifically, but it is strongly implied that they end up frequently forming group troop patterns.
Yeah.
And gaining power in that way.
Yeah, because why would you not?
This tightens their mutual bonds to the point where many develop abilities and magics available.
Take advantage of that, magically speaking.
Yeah, exactly. Many of them choose group names, like that's basically what they're talking about there. So, it doesn't come right out and say it, but there's actually Treseg actually has a commentary in there. I have fought against Star's Light, one of the best-known cerri. They were 6 to our 15, but half my companions fell before we retreated.
Yes.
The secrets of Thunderer training should be shared with all orcs. These are elite. Mm-hmm. These are up there
and
in terms of ability. And
go for it. Yeah, because of Discord, every once in a while it's just lagging. So I'll edit this part out. But what I want to say about that is I like this essay, and then it's not the typical orc braggadocio we're the best. That's all there is to it. Everybody else sucks. This is how we do it. And this is what works. And the commentary is like, they're elite. These guys are good. And they're not the Thunderers themselves in their own essay are not bragging about how good they are. Somebody else is.
Yeah.
So I like that. It's not even done from a humble manner. It's just, this is the facts. This is the facts. This is the facts. This is what we do. And somebody else says, yeah, and they're good at it. So it's the running commentary on sports that the talking heads get to say, by the way, don't sleep on the Thunderers. They will absolutely lay waste to you. So the tribe of the Thunderers really appreciates the orderly nature of things. They like the star constellations and that they're always in the right spots at the right time in the pattern of that, seasonally speaking. They like the routines of this military type training and how they do the cerri and how they do the week together and how they do the mentorship and the whole 9 yards. And they like their methods regarding all of that. So this is a very routine oriented tribe, and how they celebrate their passions is different from everybody else. And I really like this aspect of the Thunderers. They set aside certain holidays to worship each passion in turn. They don't call upon the passions when they need to, like everybody else does. Oh, today we'll say a prayer to Floranuus. Today we'll say a prayer to Festonius when we need them. This is no, we celebrate all of them in turn. Everybody gets their day, and we do it regularly speaking, so we keep the benefits of those passions in our minds at the right time of years that we need them. So everybody gets equal treatment from this tribe to all the passions. All the passions get equal treatment here.
Yeah. There's a really nice contrast. I mentioned earlier, like the spiritual aspect of the Thunderers as a tribal culture.
Yeah.
Their attention to the stars and astrology and things like that, and a recognition of the orderly way that the passions have made the world, and so we are going to follow that order in our own way to honor the creation of the passions.
Yeah.
There is a spirituality to that feels a little bit obsidiman.
Yeah, I would agree to that.
There's a quiet sort of peace, in a sense. Yes, they are a military force, but there's like a quiet sort of peace. And you mentioned like the braggadocio and stuff before. The strongest guy in the room doesn't need to beat his chest about being the strongest guy in the room.
Yeah.
He knows he's the strongest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
The other tribes are all about the machismo and the
bragging,
ferocity and stuff like that. And there's a calm, a peace to the Thunderers' tribal culture that reminds me of like obsidimen and some aspects of troll culture, even in terms of how like they're contemplative about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't prevent them from being fierce fighters, obviously.
Yes.
It's a really nice, again, going for like, this is not a monoculture. Yes, they are orcs, but they are orcs that have this particular outlook as a tribal culture because of their background, and that affects so many things about the way that they are now.
Yeah.
That comment from Treseg that I mentioned, I believe that from her. We have encountered her previously, and she has a good head on her shoulders. She recognizes talent, she recognizes strength, like she knows what the promise of Cara Fahd is and wants the Thunderers to be an example of that. I have a hard time believing that Herok or the leaders of the Metal Fist or Broken Fang would be as willing to say, no, they kicked our ass.
Yeah. For the orcs, and as loud and I can't say obnoxious, but as in your face as most orcs are, Thunderers is the epitome of the strong, silent type.
Yeah.
If you were going to play your orc in a slightly different manner, have them come from the Thunderers, I think that would serve you well as far as your character is concerned. Because since they do celebrate the passions in this way, differently than just about everybody else in the entire game do, and that's when the constellation is closest to the Earth. So when Jasperi's constellation of stars is closest to the Earth. That's when they celebrate theirs. Next month, maybe it's Garland and so forth and so on. And so because of this,
other cultures, not the orcs necessarily, but other cultures do have their holy days, in a sense, I'm sure, where passions are honored. Maybe not quite to the formality that the Thunderers have.
Fair. Or the regularity, one every month.
Yeah, or the regularity. But I'm pretty sure, like when it was talking in the Thrall Source book about the Olzim, the groups that follow the passions, they have their own celebration days and holidays and things like that. So there is some kind of structure to that. It's just not something that is typical of broader orc culture because of the fire that orcs burn with, in a sense. Whichever passion is taking them in the moment is the one that they are going to be focused on and calling on and so forth. And that's not the case with the Thunderers.
Yeah, because in the Thunderers, because of all of this that we've talked about, very few of them become Questors because they don't find one that really, really suits them all the time. They are brought up, they are reared in celebrating every single one of them in their own way. And so, but they do say if somebody really has that burning passion and they can't get this one out and they just only feel that one passion, then great, become a Questor. We don't say don't do it, but it's really rare for the Thunderers to have that viewpoint where just that one passion will do. I must quest for them.
Yeah. Well, interesting little tidbit in the text here, because while it's talking about that, closing your mind to all but a single passion often creates madness. That is something that I am in favor of, like that that jives with my sensation of things. That's kind of one of the things that we tried to do with the Questors book.
Yeah.
But it then says all 13 passions. So that is a very subtle indication that the Thunderers, at least, seem to be of the belief that there is a 13th passion. Most cases it's death, but it's never called out as something being the case. It's not even commented on in the text. There's no like side commentary, being like 13, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
But it's again, like a very subtle cultural note.
Yeah. Which is fine. And I assume that they're talking about the 3 mad passions, but I don't think they celebrate the madness of those. I think they celebrate them before they went mad. That's just it's not said, it's not hinted at, but that's my feeling that the orcs would celebrate the non-madness of the mad passions.
Yeah.
So, the way that the Thunderers got involved with Cara Fahd, and this is the only place I want to bring this up. Reading the text of the book, the word Fahd is actually pronounced by sticking out your lower jaw and putting your teeth up against your upper lip. And so it's Cara Fahd. So as I'm illustrating to Josh. But anyway, that's one of those fun things to do if you really want to be an orc character. Try that at the gaming table once upon a time. So in choosing Cara Fahd, for about 6 months after the reading of the Seeds of Nation that Krathis Gron put out, the diviners kind of waited for a sign as whether they should join, whether they should not join. And the constellations of Eupandal, Thistonius, Low-Coast, and Astendar all moved together. And this was the sign that they were looking for. And just so everybody knows, this is the sign of building, valor, change and freedom from Low-Coast, and love and art from Astendar. So all 4 of those converged at the same time, and a shower of stars fell on the same day as the declaration of sovereignty. And 1 star hung over Cara Fahd in the distance like a divine light. And so the Thunderers at that point called Cara Fahd home, traveled toward it because they said this is the sign that they were looking for, and now they have sworn to defend Cara Fahd and its inhabitants to the death. I kind of like that as well. Again, this is the astrological orc tribe that we haven't seen from trolls, we haven't seen from the elves, we haven't seen from anybody else, So I love the fact that this is one of the toughest, dirtiest, nastiest races in Earthdawn, the orcs, but they're this spiritual as well. I really love this aspect to it. The Thunderers is a nice rounding out of the orc nation.
I have to say, at least, of the ones that we have covered so far, these guys are my favorite.
You and me both, which is why we're friends.
I might revise my feeling, because it's been a while since I've actually read this book all the way through, and I don't remember the other tribes, but of the ones we have covered thus far,
yeah,
I really like these guys.
It's going to be it's going to take a lot to undo this from first seed for me.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot.
The thing is like, they didn't go right away, which kind of has the other tribes that went there right away kind of looking at him like, oh yeah, so once we succeeded, you decided to come along and join the party. But again, quiet strength. Yeah. They showed up and Krathis Gron is like, hey, Titanstroke, I want you to be my military advisor. I'm going to grant your people lands just outside of Claw Ridge, and the Thunderers are the ones who like patrol the border. And so we had the first two tribes, the Metal Fist and the Broken Fang, are classic large orc tribal cavalries.
Groupings. That
are still kind of embracing the old ways. Though there are individuals within them like Treseg and so forth that we've talked about. We had the Armbreakers previously. They are very clearly a tribe of true believers. The ones that left the Lancers, Herok's Lancers, and followed Krathis Gron out of a belief in what was going on.
Yeah.
Driven in part by, I'm sure, Krathis Gron's troubadour magic and Essok's troubadour magic as well.
Oh, yeah.
But there is a very strong impression that, yes, they are fiercely devout and loyal, but they're not all that they believe themselves to be in a way. Mm-hmm. The Thunderers, they are true believers, but not in the...
believing their own hype.
Yeah, well, like, not believing their own hype, not having the flash or the dramatic...
showmanship
that the Armbreakers have and kind of talk about. They're professionals. Yeah. They are a professional military force, and they are not as large as the other cavalries, but because of their spiritual natures, their spiritual culture, and the things that led them to Cara Fahd, they are also true believers. But because of their relationship with the passions and how they are not ruled by their passions the way that other orcs typically are, like the Armbreakers, I would say, like the Armbreakers are, in a sense, ruled by their passions. That they are like the quiet, fierce strength that kind of undergirds Cara Fahd. I imagine that the Thunderers were probably an elite force that was probably heavily involved in the battle at Sky Point in the Second War.
Mm-hmm.
All of the orc cavalries were kind of there, but I imagine that the Thunderers were like the elite, the heavy cavalry. These were the sort of equivalent of the mounted knights as opposed to the lighter cavalry. It's an interesting question what present-day Cara Fahd actually looks like in the aftermath of the war. That's not something that has really been explored in particular depth.
Fair.
I didn't change much of anything in the status quo dramatically compared to some of the other places when I was talking about the post-Second War bar save. But that's sort of an interesting question to consider, is what might have changed? What are the dynamics like within Cara Fahd? Were the Thunderers, because they were such an elite force, did they end up taking more significant losses because they would have been in the thick of it a lot more than some others? Or was it perhaps otherwise, because they are such a well-trained, small, focused, squad-based fighting force, they actually came out of it a lot better because of their discipline and their group tactics and whatnot, compared to the larger cavalries that may have just been like, oh yeah, we're going to go kick some Therin ass, and not have the discipline that would have allowed them to get through a war the way that the Thunderers might have. It's an interesting question, and I'm not sure, I don't have an answer right now, because the question just occurred to me.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I like the fact that this tribe has actually come from the same origins as everybody else did after the Scourge. They came out, they did what they used to do, but then they wanted better for themselves. They said, we can do better than this, we can be better than this. And they sought out that path of improving not just themselves individually, but themselves as a tribe and their reputation and their respect throughout bar save, to say, we may have come from the rabble, as you call us, but we have proven that we can be better than that. And I think that's a nice aspect to show for this tribe as well, because there's only 2,000 orcs roughly, in this Thunderer tribe. And they have also come across old ruins of the city of Revolk, and so they are rebuilding this city as well. So they're going to call it New Revolk. And so aside from the Metal Fist, who nomads, don't want any permanent structures, the Broken Fang, who do like permanent structures, they're okay with that. This is the, yes, but we can be better than that. We can rebuild the old and polish up this aspect that we used to have and really, again, redeem and institute some respect here to say, we're not only here just to survive. We're not only here just to be nomads and live along the land. We're here to rebuild and progress not just our tribe, but our new nation of Cara Fahd, and we're going to create a whole new city.
Yeah. I like the name of the orc that found the ruins. Uyaj Monkey Quick. That is such a cool name.
Yeah.
Much like the change that occurred in the previous generation, where they went from being simple raiders and bandits to being a disciplined orc mercenary cavalry. They have likewise taken, okay, this is a sign that we are changing again, and we are now settled here. We are no longer nomads and mercenaries. We are of Cara Fahd, and we are defenders of Cara Fahd.
Yeah.
A little bit of shade of like, yeah, unlike those tribes that have not been able to change their ways, we have accepted that, like there are cycles in the world, there are seasons that go through. This is a new season. This is a new cycle, for a new portion in our cycle for us to be where we are. This is our home now.
Yeah.
I get the sense that, like, yes, we are here for the foreseeable future, and maybe they would fall with Cara Fahd if something were to happen again. But I also get the sense that these are a canny enough people, a spiritual enough people to recognize that if something needs to happen in the cycle again, and they need to change again, they will change and adapt to their circumstances.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is if you, the great mode of survival is changing along with the world around you. And so they've realized that they're going to create a nation along with Krathis Gron and everybody else, that they needed to change around that. And they did so on their own terms at their own time. So the influential people in the Thunderers that we've kind of danced around a little bit here is first and foremost Titans-Stroke Greybeard, the current head of the tribe. He's a 7th Circle cavalryman and a 7th Circle warrior. So not someone to trifle with. He truly respects Krathis Gron and does not covet her power, does not covet her position.
He doesn't need to.
He doesn't. He knows his place. He knows that she has her place. He's fine. They're like the Mutual Admiration Society. We're good. And so he's about 40 years old, which is, ancient for an orc. It's in the elderly stage of being an orc. And he's got 13 kids with 4 wives. And he is probably in the best position to eventually take on Krathis Gron as a 5th wife. That's hinted at in this essay here. So I think he's the only one who actually has a shot. That's just what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I think he is such a badass. I just get that impression. Like, there's 2 comments in here. There's not much side commentary in this section of the document.
Yeah, so
there's the one comment that we already talked about from Treseg, who's like, yeah, their warriors are no joke.
Yep.
And the other is the beginning, where it's kind of like, yeah, he was just kind of like another one of these things.
Yeah.
Not that he thought it was a waste, but that like he had other things to deal with and was kind of like, whatever. And they're like, well, how about you have your wife do it? And he's like, actually, that's a very good idea.
Yes.
I don't know that there is necessarily any actual romance/attraction between Krathis and Titans-Stroke.
Yeah.
I think they both respect each other tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
But because this is coming from somebody else's point of view, it's like, obviously the rest of the council, who are all like vying for her affections, are all a bunch of hot-headed bandits, essentially, still.
Yeah.
Why would Krathis Gron lower herself to partner with one of those
fools because they just want to claim her as a prize, whereas Titans-Stroke would actually respect her if he were chosen to be, let's sire the next generation of Gron. So I agree. And since it's coming from his current wife, that says a lot.
Yeah. I think that's more of a case of there is such tremendous respect for him, it feels, but in the Thunderers themselves.
Yeah.
You don't have the family squabbles that are going on like you have within the higher ranks of both the Metal Fist and the Broken Fang, with the difficulties that are going on and so forth. But I also suspect it's like, well, yes, we are the Thunderers. This is probably the one place where it's not blatant, but they're kind of tooting their own horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, our chief is the most awesome. Why would Krathis Gron settle for anyone but him?
Yes. It's the only time they're going to be humble brag. Is the
Yeah. It doesn't have the machismo that you have running through the stuff from the other tribes. This is like someone saying, yeah, if he and Krathis decide that they are going to pair off and generate the heirs for Cara Fahd, I'm totally cool with that because that makes total sense.
Yes.
They're sort of serial monogamists, I guess is the term. And maybe even not that, depending on the particular tribal culture. But there is also the sense within orcs, you have get this in the Name Givers books. Yeah, our passions run hot and we'll like partner off and we'll have some children and then maybe things will cool and we'll find another partner that gets our blood pumping and we'll...
Exactly.
Yeah, he's got 13 kids with 4 different wives. That's no big deal. I don't get the sense that his other wives are like dead or anything like that.
I think the term I was looking for earlier is the Thunderers are not as audacious as the other orc tribes. Again, strong silent type. They're humble. Not exactly humble, but they've got a self-confidence that they don't need to brag about or be audacious about.
A quiet strength that is really impressive.
Yes, agreed. That's a perfect way to put it. Another influential person is Haracha Hawkhunter. Also, fantastic orc name. Well done, author. Who is the cousin of Titanstroke, and by the way, his first wife, who is currently a beastmaster. And Haracha had twins with him, Zrakan and Varul, who are the only people who lead the only Thundra unit in their cavalry. The rest of the cavalry is all horses. This is the only Thundra unit led by these two people. Haracha's a little bit more hot-headed than most of the Thunderers. She wants to war with Thera, and she wants to do it now.
Yeah. She's also not super crazy about Titanstroke's spirituality and his focus on making Cara Fahd as a whole stronger, that she thinks she should focus mainly on the Thunderers. But there's certainly not the antagonism there that I get from some of the familial relationships in the other tribes we've talked about.
Yeah, she doesn't want to unseat him. She's just like, there are other things he could be doing, and I'd rather him focus on this than, on the small us versus the large us. So focus on the Thunderers, not all of Cara Fahd. So, difference of opinion, but that's not uncommon for these characters. And then the last one is Zajan Crookney, who is crippled, but is now a devotee of Garlen and runs a shrine in the city of Claw Ridge, and is also, by the way, an advisor to Krathis Gron. So they've got some nice aspects of the difference of personalities between Titanstroke, Haracha, and Zajan here, and I think it's a nice blending of everybody in the Thunderers.
Yeah. I really like this tribe.
Yes, this is my favorite.
The quiet strength, the spirituality, the strong contrast culturally to the typical orc nomadic cavalry that we kind of expect.
Yeah.
And more specifically, the Metal Fist and Broken Fang that we encountered earlier, who are, again, like traditional orc nomadic tribal cultures. This is just a really, really cool difference. And I think part of the reason that they're so cool, not just because of all the various aspects of them, which are cool, but just because of how it's a clever, interesting twist / deconstruction on the type.
Yeah. It's not typical.
Yeah. They are an orc cavalry, but there is a very little bit of the troll / obsidiman spirituality aspect to them.
Yeah.
And a very serious, very focused, very professional force. They don't need to thump their chests and brag about how awesome they are, because they will show you how awesome they are when you outnumber them 2-1 or 3-1 and they still kick your ass.
Yes. So I like this whole thing. I think it adds a nice little difference of opinion or different facet to what people would typically think of as an orc or even an orc tribe and how they're organized. And so the next time I make an orc character, they're going to come from the Thunderers, I'm pretty darn sure. So I have that to say about that. So if you have any questions for us or you want to drop us a line, hit us up at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, don't go bragging about your legend.
Good night, everybody.